Just a moment. I hate to interrupt you here, but if they're arguing about her being an indigene or not, I mean, that's something that the Constitution specifies itself. I think it's 147 3 says any appointment under subsection 2 of this section by the President shall be in conformity with the provisions of section 14 subsection 3 of this Constitution, provided that in giving effect to the provisions aforesaid, the President shall appoint at least one minister from each state who shall be an indigene of such state. So if she's been, I think she's a commissioner in Kaduna State now, but if she was being proposed to be minister, the Constitution specifies that the person shall not just come from a state, but shall be an indigene of that particular state. Why are you taking offense with that?
I'm not taking offense. Remember that the President has the prerogative to appoint more than 36 ministers. But the Constitution said at least one from each state.
Yes.
So they should just allow the woman land first. They should allow peace to just reign.
Okay.
Why trying to start up a crisis when there is no crisis yet?
That's on the one hand. That's on the one hand. You already started talking about some of the, some of the conditions that you've heard so far. You've heard some of the senators say certain things, and so you suspect that there could be politics. But if we're going to go by some of the things that we're reading on the front pages this morning, for instance, The Guardian on the front page has this: senators give terms for confirming ministers, may reject incomplete list, screen Buhari for petroleum slot. And we're also saying to refer corruption petitions against nominees to EFCC and ICPC. How much of politics, because you like it or no, politics will definitely come to play, in what we're seeing here. How much of it do you think we will be expecting on the floor of the Senate?
I think, thank you, Mark, but I think I don't expect a lot of politics in these issues that you just raised.
Well, why don't you expect a lot of politics? Let's start from there. Why don't you expect that?
Senators are the custodians of our lawmaking process. And I believe that they understand that our Constitution, that our collective document. Now, the first issue, what if the President presents an incomplete list? I don't know how many numbers that are in that list, but what if that list is incomplete? The Constitution did not tell you that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria must submit a complete list to the Senate. The Constitution said that the President will make appointment of ministers who will help him in the discharge of his duties. Now, the President can decide to submit it in batches. The President can decide to submit it as a whole, like 50 or 30 or 19. But the Constitution said that we must have ministers that will complement the effort of the President. And I think the President is on point on this. No offense yet. Number two, I don't think the Senate has that authority. It will be a constitutional anathema to summon the Commander-in-Chief. You can do that because the Constitution says that the President, it is his prerogative to appoint ministers. So the President can decide to even convert the Ministry of Petroleum into an agency and appoint a special advisor to head it. You cannot query the President for that. So the President can decide on his own to have an oversight function in any of the ministries. You cannot question the President for that. And for the fact that 100 and something million Nigerians voted for this man and said, we want him to be our Commander-in-Chief, and he decides that he will play an oversight function in a particular ministry that needs to be a little bit reshaped because that ministry has been in a state of disaster, I can tell you. So I don't think the President committed any crime in saying, I will have an oversight function in this ministry. You can summon him, of course. He can decide not even to appoint a minister in that capacity or change the ministry as a whole, and you cannot question him for that.
What happens to the principle of checks and balance if you say they cannot question the President in the areas you mentioned?
No, I'm not saying the President cannot be questioned. I'm saying that you cannot argue with the president on why he decides, on his decision, on his prerogative to be in charge of a particular ministry. Remember in the last administration, everybody crucified President Jonathan for having the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy. People say, oh, that's too big for Konjiwala. She didn't handle it well. It was too big. But President Jonathan took it upon himself to appoint her to head. The same way President Buhari can decide to say, today, I want Chamberlain also to be to oversee the Ministry of Women Affairs. Will you say, for what? Why will you do that?
What
You
an
can say
analogy
that.
there. But if for instance, the Senate says, well, Mr. President,
I love that question.
I knew you would. Well, if the Senate says, well, Mr. President, I mean, if you want to be the Minister of Petroleum Resources, could you then appear before us for clearance? What will be wrong in that? Ask the minister, not ask the president.
It will be a constitutional anathema.
How?
It will be a serious violation of our common creed. You cannot summon the commander-in-chief to appear before the Senate because he chooses to appoint himself to play an oversight function in a particular ministry. Think about that. You can't do that. It's constitutionally wrong. So I'm looking at the Constitution now. You can't do it. And remember that the Constitution said that the president will not hold any, because some people were making case that the president cannot hold any other executive office. Of course, he is the commander-in-chief and the chief executive officer. He's appointing the ministers to work with him in his cabinet. It's like going to get married. My family will not choose my wife for me. I have to take my wife to my family. My family will need to love her and say, I think that one is good. So these are the wives of the president. These are the members of his inner caucus. So you cannot tell him, say, Mr. President, this is how you would do it. No, it will be his choice first. So if you are my parent and you insist to choose my wife for me, you are not being fair. You are not being fair. So the senators will be unfair to the president to say, we want you to appear before us because you chose to be the Minister of Petroleum. That's not right. They can't do that.
Have you also gone through the Petroleum Act? Many are reminding us here, but they thought that the Act says there's got to be a petroleum minister.
I'm not denying that. There should be a petroleum minister. And the minister is a member of the cabinet. And the head of that cabinet is the commander-in-chief. So the ball stops with Mr. President. It is his choice. So we should understand that first. And I hope these senators are paying attention to this. Because things, Chamberlain, time has changed. That Nigeria, you know, just last year, we have departed from that Nigeria. We are looking forward to a prosperous future. And I don't want the senators that hallowed chamber to be reduced to a vendetta or trying to achieve or score cheap political points because you want to get to the president for what? No, we should be more concerned about what is right, constitutionally right, and also what is right with common sense. We the people, the government is ours. It is we.
Represented by those there.
Kelechi, you know, I'm almost buying into your optimism this morning, you know, because you're approaching this from the point of idealism, but we cannot, you know, rule out some of the incidences that have happened just before this ministerial list got to the Senate president's desk. Do you think that some of these things will affect, because if the Senate perceives that it's been attacked in any way, or, you know, its own autonomy, because you've talked about the autonomy of the president, if the Senate perceives that its own autonomy to choose its leaders are being attacked in any way through any means, whether legal or illegal, do you think that that could also affect how they eventually attend to the list that is sent by the president?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, because the Senate should not feel that way. The Senate should not box itself in that captivity of negative thinkings about the intention of the executive arm, because the president came out and stated clearly, I am not involved in this whole Senator Saraki's emergence or whatever he is going through with the Code of Conduct Tribunal, and he has not been convicted. So as far as I'm concerned, the Senate President is an innocent man until proven otherwise. And when it comes to, I don't like to be politically correct in this instance, but let it be for the political parties, for the APC, to deal with whatever problems that they have. And Senator Saraki is a Senate President from the APC, and some senators, APC senators and PDP senators, I don't think they are resuming this morning, betting themselves to say, we're going to show him, we're going to deal with them. No, that is a wrong attitude to nationhood. You can't do that to us. Because it's not about the senators, because we are watching. We are watching. It is about us. Right now, this government should be about the people. If you want to bicker from now till next year and frustrate the process of nation building, we will hold you accountable. We will come to your doorstep. Civil societies will mobilize. It's either us or no us. We, the people, will demand that this government must work for us. So I'm not trying to, I'm trying to make sure that we are in love in this together. This should be a sweet political romance between the executive and the legislators. And of course, when it's all said and done, we will say, thank God, then we can begin
I can't help but smile. You know, your analogies are so it's so interesting. You talk about, you know, marriage, you talk about romance, you talk about, you know.
No, but it's because if you just look at where we're coming from. We've suffered enough. Nigerians have had enough. At a time, we should say enough is just enough. What is going on? This is our country. This is our land.
But just quickly, though, I know
UK.
that you're talking about what's going to happen in the National Assembly and your expectations, because these are your expectations. But are you a little disappointed, though, that this list is just coming?
You know, even the Bible will tell you that there's a season. I think a new chapter of Nigeria was opened by this administration. They decide to keep the secret to themselves. That is how the president chose to do it, and I cannot question his authority to do that, but I can recommend, just for next time, you know, when a week to this announcement, Nigerian people, it's not about us. We should know who these people are. They are our neighbors, our friends, our uncles, our fathers. We should be able to have an opinion, to interrogate their credibility, their eligibility. And if I find out that there is anyone in this list who is unworthy to serve, I can write to my president and say, my commander-in-chief, this person is unworthy to serve based on these reasons. I think that is a fair relationship between the government and the people.
All right, Kelechi.
But we don't have any stake, we don't have any input. It's from the executive straight to the legislator, and we sit down there look.
No, but we have a right to your opinion as well. I mean, it's a democracy, and people can always have that freedom of speech insofar as they don't violate or slander or libel anyone. But we have to thank you for coming on. And Kelechi is the president of the Nigerian Council. Oh, on a lighter note, I suggest it will be nice for you to also, because some are latching on to your suggestion, please do remind them also that you said it will be unfair to choose a wife for you. So let them also remember that part. Well, thank you, Kelechi. We'll be back in a moment. Join us again.